Know your audience. If you're in a classroom, what does that mean? A classroom is already an invitation to express other thoughts. Take advantage of it, but do it in such a way where you are sharing. You are not imposing your thoughts, you are simply sharing your thoughts. And this comes down to knowing yourself, okay? You can't engage other people until you know yourself. What is the issue that gets you really wild up? What is the issue that you need to work on within yourself before you can start talking about it? Because you're going to jump. You ever see people that like pounce if they're really upset and about to talk about something? No, Muslim men can't have 10 wives. Oh, okay. Let's calm down. Bring it full circle. Watch your tone. Know yourself. I can't say that enough. Know yourself, know your limits. You need to know what happens to you when your heartbeat starts going up, you get wild up, you start breathing kind of heavy because you're upset. When people are upset, they start thinking with their limbic brain. That part is survival. The cortex, this part that Allah has blessed us with, this is the part that lets us have a higher form of thinking. This is the part that allows us to raise consciousness. This is the part that makes us human. And it's a beautiful thing, but not so beautiful if you can't stay in that place while engaging in conversation. So if we enter into any form of dialogue looking for someone to be right and looking for someone to be wrong, we shouldn't go there. Even in our families, even in relationships. Now, having seen clients for the last year as a marriage and family therapist, I can tell you, when personalities are so set on being right, you can't move the conversation. So what do? What's the alternative? The alternative is to create more space to listen and to acknowledge. And that's kind of a hard thing to do for some people. It's hard to say, you know what, I hear what you're saying. I hear that you disagree. I want to understand more about where that comes from. Seek to understand before be understood, that whole notion. It's very difficult. I normally work on Saturdays. And then when Rahim asked me to come, I had just left another university. I was doing a lecture, Basic Intro to Islam, and it was hostile. It was rough. And I think, okay, I have all of these tools in my tool bag. I know peace building. I can transform anything. I'm a therapist. I can calm a room. I'll be fine. Okay, really, Nadia? So then you have these people who've been planted in the audience, and the lecture was great, and everyone was engaged and laughing and having a good time, and then that hand raises in the air, and you get that question, why didn't you tell them that jihad is one of the first pillars in Islam? That jihad is the first pillar in Islam. Oh, okay. What do you do with that? Do you say, no, it's not the first pillar? I just said that these are the 5 pillars. Do you get defensive? What's another option? Tell me. What would you do? Yeah.
I would say, I'm sorry that you're so upset, and let me try to address your question.
Okay. So acknowledge that this person is clearly upset. Would that make him more upset?
Ask where they got this information.
Okay, where did you get this information? Yeah.
Asking if we already went over, asking another student to explain what are the 5 pillars, and he will get the answer, or she will get the answer.
Okay, so use someone else. Keep going. Yes.
Instead, use what jihad actually is, and that way you'll be explaining what jihad is without addressing his question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So there's a wide variety of approaches you can take, right? And there's really no formula for it. Sometimes some things work better than others. You just have to trust yourself, but have the intention that you're trying to calm things over. So in this situation, I did say to the gentleman, you know, I want for you to teach me where you got your information from. What does that do? I just gave him power. And he said, I know because I lived in an Arab country, I know. Okay, now he's telling me part of his story. What is his story? Could he have been a Christian Arab who was persecuted? Could he have had a bad experience? In this moment, I could have been completely insensitive, and I could have brushed him off. But instead, I simply said to him, I want to understand more. We've established what the 5 pillars are. And I invite you, because we were limited on time too, we only had like 5 minutes. Like, I want to invite you to carry on this conversation with me afterwards. But we had already established in the lecture that jihad doesn't mean holy war, blah, 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 all of that stuff. So guess what? This guy never came after the lecture. Because he really didn't. He knows he just wanted to kind of cause a little rift in the room. But he was given power and he was given an opportunity, and he didn't take it. And everyone else witnessed that. And sometimes that's enough. Okay? There's been so many different situations, and I was saying earlier today, I just feel like things have been so much more hostile, and the intentionality that we bring to all forms of conversation have to be heightened. We have to be more intentional in our approach. We have to be more empathetic and more compassionate. Because if you believe that liberal multiculturalism is something that's real, a part of what you would also believe is that anytime your identity is feeling threatened, and this identity of the white, Caucasian American, where you can no longer trace back anything to something truly ethnic. It's okay if you're Italian and you eat pasta, but it's not okay if you're Italian and want to talk about the history of Italy and its politics. It's okay to be Irish and to have St. Patrick's Day. It's not okay to be Irish and talk about North and South Ireland. In the world of liberal multiculturalism, everything has its limits. So how then would you show empathy and compassion to someone who's very confused by what's going on in the world and feels like we're losing control of this dominant identity of what it means to be American? Because there's more than one definition for what it means to be American. My definition of American, because of my family's history and everything else, is deeply rooted in this idea that I have my civil rights, I have the Bill of Rights. It's all about freedom, freedom to express myself. My hijab, I don't say that I wear hijab to be modest. I say my hijab is an expression of my freedom of religion. And what does that do? It places things in a discourse that people can better understand. This is about knowing ourselves and our limits, but also about knowing other people. And to assume that there's one discourse that defines America is to assume too much. And it's kind of difficult to not say, well, every African American should think this way. Or all of the Hispanics should think that way. You can't really do that. You have to break it down. And each person you will encounter will be different. But not only are the people that you encounter going to be different, the settings that you encounter them in are going to make the difference. So if you're in a college classroom, the likelihood that you can move conversation is going to be heightened as compared to a different setting where not everyone has the opportunity to speak.